You always say that to me like I'm in control of that.
You are. We both are. I mean, we both really are. We think about it.
Yeah, I'll start yelling you to shut up when you start with a story.
Got a good one for you anyway. Wait, are we live? Yes, we are. Okay. All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA strategy show presented by PrizePicks. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughran_D on the Twitter, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS, breaking down another not so robust slate. 6 games. You got to love it, man. Have to feel good about that heading into the end of the season. What's going on, dude?
Yeah, really enjoyable NBA schedule, really since NFL ended. So that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, looking forward to another one. I mean, decent night for me DFS-wise, as far as I only lost a little bit. Shitty night best ball-wise. Didn't get a lot of stuff I needed. So hopefully today goes better.
Are you still live for best ball?
Yeah, it's looking worse than it was 2 days ago, though. I mean, it still runs through Sunday. I didn't have a lot of guys play yesterday or today or Sunday. So like I was going to fall anyway and then have to, make it back up today and tomorrow. But then also guys that I did have didn't exactly do what I needed them to. So, and guys that I didn't have had big games. So not in as good a position as I was, but still live.
What's first place in this one?
100.
Okay. And then
it's 100 and then 25, 10, 5.
I was going to ask how they scaled the payouts. I had a feeling it was something like that.
Yeah. It's pretty much I need first or it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, 25 wouldn't be terrible.
I mean, no, it would be nice, but like also just
but it's a huge
in the last 6 months. It doesn't matter.
That's true. Yeah. It's not like a 2-day contest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up as you walk in the door. Take a single second, atone for your sins. Start your day off right. You will feel better, I promise. Subscribe to the channel too. And if you're listening in podcast form, we know you're there. Leave a rating or review, all that good stuff. It does go a long way, I promise you. Subscribe to the pod. Tell all your friends about Stokastic, and leave a comment down below in YouTube if you're listening watching after the fact. We try and, at the very least, read all of them, respond to all of them as well. Yeah, I got fucking birds right now building a nest in my dryer vent. And I got to go outside after the show. The joys of being a homeowner, right? You got to go out
this
there
is why I rent.
after the show and get all that out. You know what I do? I pull the dryer out and I take a leaf blower and I just blow it through the dryer vent in the back of in the laundry room and just blow everything out the vent. Sharp move.
That means nothing to me. I don't even know what you're talking about.
You don't know what a dryer vent is?
I know what a dryer is.
All right. So like a dryer has a vent that there's an exhaust on it, right? Like there's an exhaust on a dryer. Otherwise it wouldn't be great. The lint, all the hot air and all that comes out. You can detach that from the wall because there's a dryer, that goes through the wall. And then the exhaust goes out the back of the house, right?
Right.
So I just detach it. I stick the leaf blower in there and I crank it up.
Oh, wait. Okay. I know what you're talking about now. Okay.
Yeah. Crank it up on turbo and just let everything rip. Watch those eggs smash. No, I'm kidding. I don't believe if there was a nest in there, I would take it out and I would put it somewhere first. But I don't think they've gotten that far yet. Yeah, it's going to suck, dude. So, then you have to put like a grate up there, whatever. It's just earlier in the year than I thought it would be. But Dan said smart move works like a charm. It does. It's great, man. It's great. It saves you from having to dig in there with your hands and everything too. Just wipe them out, dude. Straight Twister style. They don't know what hit them.
I would for sure just call somebody to come do whatever.
See that? Honestly, I'm the type of guy that will call. I got buddies that do all that type of home improvement stuff. There's a lot of things that I'm just calling and paying someone to do. This literally takes 5 minutes. So you would not want to call someone to do this. You just take the dryer out, stick a leaf blower in there and blow it out. That's it. Like that's all you're doing. If you called someone to do that, they'd show up and they'd be like, really, man? You know what I mean? Like you calling someone to fix your thermostat and then being like, yo, it's off.
Yeah, I mean, it still wouldn't be worse than when I had them come fix the dishwasher and they just had to flip the circuit breaker.
Yeah, that's true. PETA has entered the chat, said the victor. No, like I said, I'm not hurting anything. Yeah, I got a real soft spot for creatures and animals. Like, I don't know what happened. I got older. I became a giant pussy when it comes to this type of stuff. Like, I hate seeing animals get hurt, can't handle it. But This is a fire hazard. I can't have them blocking up the exhaust to a dryer. Things end poorly. Plus, my kid means more to me than some birds trying to build some shit in my dryer. Anyway, let's get to this. How you feeling? You feeling decent this morning? You sleep okay?
Yeah, slept good, didn't drink, have coffee now, thanks to, Jordan not making us start at exactly 10.
Yeah, no. Jordan was, when you asked him, you could see his face be like, I don't know.
Well, so I had gone to make it like when I normally do, but it messed up and was just giving me hot water. And I knew how to fix it, but I knew it was going to take a couple minutes. So I was like, whatever, I just won't have coffee. And I came back and then we're just still sitting here talking. And I'm like, all right, well, if we're not going to start at 10 anyway, I'm going to go make coffee.
Exactly. I got you. I already crushed a cup. I do 1 cup a day. I try and do 1 cup a day, but then I'll crush like a pre-workout with, 200 milligrams of caffeine in it anyway, later in the afternoon, but we're good to go. We're feeling good. Let's talk some basketball. Happy that you guys could join us today. We got Washington and Orlando. We've got Frost. Just go back and listen. You'll see. Washington and Orlando. No Kyle Kuzma today, which makes it kind of interesting. Wizards 1.5 point dogs, 225.5 total, or 225 total. If you look at the 6 games Beal has played without Kuzma this year, pretty good. 1.46 DraftKings points per minute. Listen to these point totals in the 6 games he's played without Kuzma. 33, these are actual points. 36, 33, 33, 32, 17, and 30 with 34% usage.
Yeah, and it's not really that surprising. I mean, we know that he still can take on a big usage role. It's just that he doesn't need to quite as much when Kuzma and Porzingis are in. But yeah, 1.46 DraftKings points per minute, 33.8% usage in those 6 games where both Kuzma and Porzingis and Beal have been in, Kuzma's been out. 33.8% usage for Beal. By comparison, in the games he's played with everyone active, 28% usage. So quite a jump for him there. He's playing big minutes now. Looks really, really good.
How do you feel about somebody like Porzingis today? Because Beal is obviously in a good spot. Porzingis also playing without Kyle Kuzma makes things interesting. And then the rest of the rest of the Washington Wizards without Kyle Kuzma on the floor, because we've already established that Beal is going to see considerable usage. And should you look at his minutes recently, there've been a bunch of blowouts. Like if this game's close, he's playing another 36, 37 minutes. How do you feel about the rest of Washington?
Yeah, I think Porzingis looks good as well. 8,900 is a reasonable price tag for him. He's pulling 15% ownership. He's at 1.4 DraftKings points per minute in the 6 games he's played with Beal and without Kuzma. We know that he's going to give you around 34 minutes as long as he doesn't get in foul trouble or get hurt. So yeah, him and Beal both look really good. Avdia at 5K looks fine. You should get increased playing time from him. I don't expect him to start, but he could. And if he does, that would obviously be good for his playing time. But I assume he's going to come off the bench, but still give you around like 28 minutes on average, sometimes get to 30. I expect that Kispert will start. He's 4,200. Not a great point per minute guy, but likely to give you north of 30 minutes at pretty low ownership. So, in tournaments, I don't mind taking a shot there, but Avdi is the better point per minute guy, even if he's going to play a few minutes less. Monte Morris looks okay. Delon Wright's down to 4K. You could certainly see a little bit of playing time of a few minutes where Wright plays alongside Morris too. That's something that they haven't really been doing recently. They did it a little bit. Actually, no, they didn't do it last game. They haven't really been doing it recently, but they were doing it prior to Monte Morris's injury. You were seeing games where DeLon Wright and Morris closed together. You were seeing their minutes overlap. Not having Kuzma out there for 36 minutes, you could certainly see a couple minutes here where maybe instead of 28 minutes for Morris and 20 for Wright, you get something like 28, 22 or something like that. It just makes, both of them look a little bit more appealing than they otherwise would.
Damn, Karl Anthony Towns might be back on Wednesday.
Yeah, sure.
When's the last time he's played? How long is it?
Like November?
Yeah, right? Like 4 months at this point or something? Long time. Talk about Orlando on the other side, though. Magic, pretty popular today. It's not the highest total, but on a 6-game slate, there are going to be some pretty appealing spots. I mean, Franz Wagner, 24%. Banchero is 21%. Carter Jr., Fultz, both of them pulling a little bit of ownership here. I mean, I don't think it's the most surprising thing in a game like this. Close spread. Those guys should all see considerable minutes, mid-range price points. Do you have clear favorites though for Washington looking at these top four?
Beal and Porzingis.
For Orlando, sorry.
Yeah. I was like, who the hell are the top four?
Yeah, I was saying the top four in ownership, the guys that are pulling double digit right now.
Yeah. Banchero and Carter probably, but I think they're all pretty similar. They've gotten a little bit more expensive. Carter's up to 6,900. He was like 62 recently, but still just around the 7K price tag on Banchero, Carter, Fultz. That all looks pretty good. Franz Wagner's actually pulling the most ownership at 6,300. That surprises me a little bit just because, yeah, he's the cheapest of the group, but it's not like that's a huge price difference. And he has been typically the most disappointing of those four, but still shooting guard, small forward eligible. Coming off a game, he played 37 minutes. On average, you're getting around 33, but any of those four guys are going to look good here.
Yeah, right. And Fultz keeps playing big minutes too. 34, 34, 35, 31, 38 over his last five. You're starting to see the ceiling with Fultz as well, just given that he's finally getting playing time that can put him there. The only question now is he is 7K. It is against Washington. The one interesting thing though about Fultz today is we have him with 11% ownership right now. Optimal percentage is at 17%. So he has some nice positive leverage in the boom bust tool as well, only pulling 11% on a 6-game slate.
Yeah. And I think it's just that for one, he's point guard only. Two, he's up to 7K. Like you said, he's another one where, it's not a massive price increase, but you're talking about, a good 10% above where we typically get Fultz. And there's just never any shortage of good point guard options. So it's just going to be tough to say oh yeah, he's, going to be in 30% of lineups or something like that. But he does still give you a good ceiling. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy. He's likely to play around 34 minutes. He's got a good matchup. Everything, looks good for him.
Anything else for Orlando? You want to talk a little Detroit here?
Cole Anthony should give you around 28 minutes off the bench with no Jalen Suggs again, but his price tag has come up to nearly 6K, so pretty tough to want to get to that. Gary Harris at 3,600 is okay. He didn't close last game. They went with Cole Anthony. So Harris only played 22 minutes, but you do have a path to 26 to 28. Nothing to get excited about, though.
Okay. So, excuse me. Detroit's interesting. They've just, there's no real incentive left to tank at this point. There's no team within 6.5 games of last place in the East. So that's why I look at guys like Ivy and Hayes, and you just assume they're going to keep playing big minutes. There's no Bogdanovich again. Jalen Duren's out. Stewart's out. Diallo, Alec Burks out. RJ Hampton and Isaiah Livers questionable. But one thing that stood out to me a little bit was I was a little bit surprised that the Killian Hayes getting the same ownership as Ivy, essentially the same price point. I know that Hayes has been a playmaker, but you look at in 2 games since Ivy returned, he lost 3 minutes in one of them because of foul trouble early on, would have played essentially 38 minutes in both of them. Over the 2 games since he's been back, they're averaging the same amount of potential assists per game. So, and I mentioned that because Killian Hayes, a lot of that value that he has is derived from his ability to create assists because he's not a good scorer. He has the worst true shooting percentage of any player in the league with 20 plus minutes per game. So, I honestly thought that Ivy would be a little bit higher owned than him. Right now, they're both at 17%. They're basically identical in price point today, in a pretty good matchup. They suck, Adam, but Atlanta is a bottom defense. They play at one of the fastest paces in the league. I know the spread here is massive, but I don't think there's any I think why wouldn't you take your 5th overall rookie pick and just give him minutes to close out the season?
Yeah, and we've seen that with most of the bad teams this year. I know Josh had made this point a month or 2 ago that he didn't think teams were truly going to tank this year, and we haven't seen that. You're seeing it with Houston. They're playing their guys big minutes. Detroit's playing the guys that they play big minutes. Now, you can say what you want about all of the guys that are not playing for Detroit, but the guys that are playing big minutes. So there's no reason based on anything we've seen to think that they're going to jerk around the minutes on these guys. I do think that you should probably get pretty similar ownership between Hayes and Ivy. Ivy gives you the scoring ceiling, but he's really inefficient too, is the thing. It's not like he's an efficient scorer, and he is a lower assist percentage guy. Typically, he has been more involved recently, like you were saying, but they've played 6 games this year where both Hayes and Ivy have been in with Bogdanovich and Cunningham out. 0.85 DraftKings points per minute for Hayes, 0.82 for Ivy, a 38% assist percentage for Hayes, mid-20s for Ivy. So they're not the same player, but for fantasy purposes, they're kind of the same player where they're going to get every opportunity to do well. They just kind of suck. And so that's the issue you're going to run into. But the opportunities are there. Like Killian Hayes is going to get a ton of assist opportunities and have enough usage where if his shot falls, he's going to have a big game. Jaden Ivey is going to get the shots and the minutes. It's just a matter of making them. I had a bunch of Ivey last slate at 5%. He started out really well. I didn't realize until this show that he ended up playing 38 minutes and still massively failed. So that kind of just pissed me off even more. But the opportunities are there. The prices are fine. The ownership's also there. Like, I don't think these are guys that you're looking at and saying like, oh, these are sneaky plays. These are great, contrarian plays or anything. Right. They're just pretty obvious, solid mid-range plays.
Right. Yeah. It's just one of those instances where you look at it and you go, as you pointed out, these guys aren't very good, but the matchup is good. If the game stays even remotely competitive, they're probably playing huge minutes, and there's like nobody else on this team that's, Wiseman, of course, and Bagley, those type of guys. But yeah, I guess when you look at the rest of Detroit today, how many of these guys are quality, viable options? Because Joseph, Ivey, Wiseman, and Hayes are all pulling essentially 12+% ownership.
Yeah, people are sleeping on Bagley too. So we talked about Hayes and Ivey. Wiseman looks good here. 6,400 for James Wiseman with no Jalen Duren. That certainly makes his playing time look better. We've seen him getting substantial minutes ahead of Duren anyway. But when Duren's backing him up, there's still always that chance of like, oh, Jalen Duren's just going to cut into his minutes and you're going to get like, a 26-22 split instead of 28-20 or something like that. But here with no Duren, you expect the rotation to be Wiseman and Bagley starting, and then Bagley and Wiseman having their minutes staggered, Bagley being the backup center. That opens the door for Wiseman to play more minutes. We got 33 from him last game. In the second half where Duren barely played, he played 14 seconds. You had an 8-minute, 16-second stint to open for Wiseman. Then he closed for the final 9 minutes and 25 seconds. If you play that rotation in both halves, you're talking like 34, 35 minutes for Wiseman. I think it's very reasonable to expect 32 to 34. And then Bagley, they said he was going to be limited last game, which made me think he was going to come off the bench. He didn't. Then he played 30 minutes without closing. And now you don't have Jalen Duren. So you expect Bagley to be the backup center, which one means more production and two means an easier path to minutes, because when you have Duren in, you're getting 48 minutes from Wiseman and Duren, which means that for Bagley to play, let's say 32 minutes, it means you have to take the minutes away from like Omarui, which you may or may not want to do. You're Detroit, like maybe you just want to see him play. Now it's very, very easy for Bagley to play substantial minutes as well. So at 6,300, I think he's actually getting slept on here, especially if Hampton and Livers are out. But even if they're in, 6,300 for Bagley, I think people are sort of sleeping on, given that he played 30 minutes last game.
Yeah, and SMP said this team played a quasi 7-man rotation against Miami. Yeah, and then Jalen Duren was one of them. He played 9 minutes. Buddy Boeheim played 6 minutes. Between Magruder, Bagley, Ivey, Hayes, Wiseman, and Corey Joseph, they soaked up almost every minute in that game.
Yeah, very condensed rotation. Magruder's playing a ton too. I mean, I don't really know what to do with him because his salary's up to $5,700, but like he's playing huge minutes. He's giving you good games. I still don't really want to get to him at that price, but a very, condensed rotation. Omarui just played straight backup minutes to Bagley in that game. Yeah. I think Detroit's a scary, appealing team here.
Yeah. Speaking of Magruder types, how about that game from Taurean Prince yesterday?
It was 8 for 8 from 3.
Yeah. He had 35 points.
Yeah, just amazing. That's probably more ridiculous than Austin Reeves scoring 50 fantasy points the day before.
I think it probably is, yeah. Just given that, you're talking about a guy that played 30 minutes and had 8 fantasy points the game prior to that.
He had 0 actual points in the first half the game before. Yeah, there was a lot of ridiculous. Aldama went 40+ yesterday. Agbaji went 40+ yesterday.
Yeah. Well, Agbaji couldn't miss from 3 either.
Right.
That game from Rent. And then how about the Knicks Minnesota game too had more points after the first quarter than Philly Chicago had at halftime.
Did you see like Randall's actual line?
57 and 4 and 1 or something?
Yeah. Like when at one point, like I knew he was having a big fantasy game. And then I see a tweet that Julius Randle has 52 actual points. And I'm like, Oh shit, he had like 56 fantasy points last I looked. He must have like 70 now or something. Like
Nope.
he must have just started scoring a bunch. And I looked, and at the time he had 52, 1 and 1, I think, or 1 and 0. Like,
Yeah, it was like Kevin Herter style,
right.
except a lot more points, but just no peripherals. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird. I think he finished with 57. Yeah. Crazy. But yeah, Detroit, bad team, good matchup. If you see a rotation, and Jalen Duren out too, like we said, if Jalen, who knows? Maybe it's insanely condensed today, and you're just saying, I'll take the minutes. I think that's always a viable approach against a bad Atlanta team, a bad Atlanta defense, I should say. How do you want to approach the Atlanta
Team
side of
also
this?
works.
What's that?
Team also works.
Yeah, it does. But worse defense than offense. Yeah. I think we would agree on that. Also, DeJounte Murray questionable today, so keep that in mind. Right now we have him around 15%, but if he doesn't play, of course, Trae Young looks remarkable in this spot against the Detroit Pistons. That would open things up. But as it stands right now, assuming everybody's in, what do you want to do with Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean, assuming everybody is in, it's still a good spot. Trae Young still going to look okay at 9,600. You have continued to see not as many minutes from him under Quinn Snyder as you were from Nate McMillan. He only played 29 last game in a loss to the Spurs. That's a game where he also wasn't playing particularly well at all, and he was questionable coming in. But I think you expect 33, 34 minutes from him here. If Murray is out, makes him look okay at 9,600. Murray's probably giving you 36, 37 if he's in. Makes him look fine at 7,900. No problems with either of those guys. You've got cheap centers. Clint Capella coming in at 5,800. Okongwu is up to 5K. You got a nice 28-20 split in Capella's favor last game. Both of them ended up having solid games, I believe. Don't mind taking some shots on them in tournaments. I think Capella is going a little bit over-owned at 13%, just given that 28 minutes isn't guaranteed. You're going to get some games where, he plays 25, 26, and Okongwu plays more. But I think this is more of, it's a solid tournament team. It's a good matchup. There's good point per minute guys to get to. It's not quite like Detroit, though, or Washington, where you have very clear, like, top tier plays. It's more similar to Orlando, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think, yes, right. If Murray's out, then that changes things
right.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if Murray's out, you get Trae Young looking better, probably playing more minutes, but either way, you expect him to be more productive in those minutes. You get more minutes, most likely for Bogdanović at 4,900, potentially Bey, but I would certainly expect Bogdanović. So, yeah, if Murray's out, things really open up.
Talk about Cleveland and Brooklyn then. Before we do, though, shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks. Yeah, it's the best promo that we have available right now. That's simple. And you're getting over to a good site. PrizePicks is blowing up. Like I told you guys yesterday on the strategy show that we have the new Chalkboard app. It's going to become just the gold standard of sports betting, conversation and shooting the shit and syncing all of your bets to your books and all of that stuff. And we're growing the community day by day. Thanks to you guys. It's totally free, by the way. Links down there, Chalkboard. If you download the app, that'll take you straight to the Odd Shopper Chalkboard. Greg's in there every day. I'm in there. We got Josh in there with his PrizePicks plays and so much more stuff. Everything's free. All the picks, all the conversation, never going to cost anything. I mention that because, one, we'd love to get you guys in on the ground floor, help us build this, give us a place to talk and shoot the shit and sweat picks together outside of just like YouTube or Twitter, and it's free. But also because ton of PrizePicks talk in there lately. Almost surprised me how much there was, but it makes sense, right? They do all this Taco Tuesday stuff where you're getting great lines on these props that you can throw into your lineups. They do like free plays all the time, free squares. They do insurance plays where if your lineup or card doesn't hit, up to if you have a $20 play or less, you get it all back. You're just building lineups with player props. There's no juice on either side, just taking the over or the under. And all of our tools over at Stokastic help you make the most educated decisions and build the best lineups. On top of that, Josh's free video on the Odd Shopper channel. When you sign up using the link in the description or in chat, right, you are getting all of our tools entirely free for a calendar month, $120 value. That's the boom bust tool, the top stacks tool for every sport, the ownership projections, the player projections, the lineup generator, the lineup builder, all of our data, all of our projected stats, every article, all of the tools, you name it. You want to get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on top of that too, you can do it. And I'm not just talking PrizePicks content. I'm talking tools for every single sport you can think of. We're at late March now. You think about all of the sports that are happening. I won't run through them, but there's like 11 different sports in action right now where we have projections and tools for all of them. You're getting all of that. You got to use the link or we can't find you, but you'll get hit up after you sign up and deposit on PrizePicks. You're getting 100% deposit match bonus on PrizePicks up to $100. So if you put 100 in, your account's going to say 200. You put 50 in, it's going to say 100. Just across the board, you're getting a bunch of stuff that you're doing essentially nothing for outside of depositing, playing, likely winning money on PrizePicks because you got all of the tools at your disposal. And you got all of our tools for DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever else you play for the entire month, $120 value, including our premium Discord. So check all that out. Link in the description, link in chat. Check out Josh's videos on the Odd Shopper channel. Start winning some money on go 10X on a 5-pick flex play. And by the way, last thing I'll say about this, unlike traditional books, I just think it's important and I want to mention it every time. If you hit 4 of 5, you still 2X. If you hit 3 of 5, you still make money back. Other books, if you hit 4 of 5, your parlay is crushed. Here, 4 of 5 on a 5-pick flex play on PrizePicks, you're still 2Xing. So you can really sustain a bankroll. And then when you hit those big ones, build it up massively. Check it out. PrizePicks, sponsor the strategy show. Link in the description and in chat. All right, let's move it on here. Cleveland. Looks like Jared Allen should play. He was a full participant in practice, so we'll see how that goes. But they're 3-point favorites on the road against Brooklyn. He's questionable, did practice. We have him projected in right now. What does that do for you when it comes to this Cleveland team today?
It makes Evan Mobley look a little bit less appealing just because you're getting fewer center minutes. He is still 7,700. Like, he's still certainly playable in tournaments, but not going to look as good as he would if Jared Allen were out. Allen at 6,200, assuming he's starting and not significantly limited, is a solid option at 6,200. That's just a very good price tag for him, assuming he's just coming back and playing 30 plus minutes. So that, it affects those guys. You don't expect, Lamar Stevens to be a thing anymore, if he ever was. Darius Garland at 7,500, not going to be impacted by Allen. Still just a very, very cheap price tag on him. Should play a bunch of minutes. Very good point per minute guy. Donovan Mitchell at 8,800, more correctly priced than Garland, but also getting half the ownership. So certainly not a bad spot to just, try and sort of leverage Garland. Not that you can't play them together, or that, Mitchell having a good game necessarily means Garland has a bad one, but with twice as many people going to Garland, if you can just find that $1,300 for Mitchell at half the ownership, it does make some sense where, you're going to get some games where Mitchell's just the guy that goes off and Garland has an average game, and, you're getting him at half the ownership. So I think Mitchell looks good in tournaments. I think Mobley looks fine in tournaments. Allen and Garland are the guys that I would expect to be building around the most, though.
Okay. Chi-Town Sean said Chalkboard was going off last night. Thanks for your help, Lob. Yeah, dude, we were having a lot of fun in there. I had a hockey game at 9:30, so I had to roll, but I came back to my car with just an insane amount of notifications. Yeah, we were in business. Greg's picks hit. I was on the under for Draymond rebounds. That was also one of the top plays in the Bet Pro tools. So yeah, we had a good time. We'd love to have you guys hang out. You're not paying anything. We're just hanging out. Bullshit. Giving picks out. It's fun. On the other side of this one with Brooklyn, I mean, it's clearly not a good matchup. Good defense for Cleveland, expected to get, well, I'm saying expected, but good chance that Allen's back, slow-paced team, good defense. I don't see anything that really jumps off the page at all, especially given that most of these, like Dinwiddie's price point is certainly not down. Bridges is almost 8K. Claxton getting a little bit of ownership. I'm not particularly fond of this matchup. I suppose it's an okay spot, but center only eligibility. Cameron Johnson, 6,400 now. Like, this feels as though it's a tough team to get to today.
Yeah, I agree, especially if Allen's in, because it makes the defense that much better. It is a team that's projected to go a little bit under-owned, but still low probability plays. Like, if you look at the boom bust tool right now, the only guy with a 10% chance of being optimal is Nick Claxton. Pretty cheap, 6,800 price tag for him, playing 30 plus minutes as long as he can avoid foul trouble. But even that, we've already talked about a center position, and we're halfway through the slate, but a center position where, the other side of this game, we're assuming you have Jared Allen. We've talked about Wendell Carter. There's plenty of good mid-range centers on this slate to where Claxton's not like markedly better than them. He's just comparable. Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, 7,800 and 6,400 respectively. 7% chance of being optimal, 4% ownership to Bridges, 6% chance of being optimal, 4% ownership to Johnson. Very clearly low probability plays, but if you need them in a lineup here and there to be different, that's fine. They clearly have high upside, but just nothing that I'm planning on prioritizing from this team in a pretty difficult matchup, but also just at prices that are more or less in line with where they should be when you have other teams that the prices don't make a lot of sense.
So essentially no priorities from Brooklyn at all.
No, not at all. I don't think.
Are you ready to talk about the Spurs?
Sure.
Okay. Well, in case you're new to this right now and haven't looked.
No, I know because I have Vassell on a best ball team.
Okay. Devin Vassell out, Zach Collins out, Jeremy Sohan out, Trey Jones doubtful, Devonta Graham questionable. Here we go. Here we go again. Just an insane amount of players out today. Yeah, Mamu's getting 55% right now. Bates Diop getting 46%. Keldon Johnson at 29%. Devonta Graham, assuming he plays, is at 20%. I mean, listen, kind of par for the course when you're getting as many guys ruled out. It's not like I'm super surprised by this. What I do find crazy though, if you look at our boom bust tool, I just referenced that when we were talking about PrizePicks, not for PrizePicks, but you get it with the PrizePicks sign up promo. Dude, Mamu has 55% ownership and a 30% optimal percentage today. Yeah,
it's kind of a tricky spot because for one, his salary did come up a bit. He was like 3,100 when we went through this the other day. 4,200 is still very cheap, but it's just easier to fail. I mean, it's that much easier to fail when you're 4,200. It's a 33% price increase on what he was. Mamu also is not a great point per minute guy. For his career, he's around 0.8 to 0.85 fantasy points per minute, which is fine, especially for the minutes he's likely to play. But it's not like your normal center that just gets thrown in there and he's just automatically a 1.1, 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy. That hasn't been him in his career. Granted, playing minutes on the Spurs team could certainly increase that. But so it's a tricky spot because a 30% chance of being optimal is still very, very high and very likely to happen. But he is center only, and getting 55% ownership is a lot when you consider that means, like, if Mamu is in your lineup, it means your lineup does not have both of Allen Claxton, Allen Carter Allen, other centers we're going to talk about. So you're just automatically limiting, kind of the upside of your team. Like, not really, because obviously Mamu can just go for 40 and then you have to have him. But like, you're limiting the combinations you can make so much when you have so many good plays at this position. So that's why you see that gap between optimal and ownership. From a top projection standpoint, Mamu's going to just show up in lineups because he projects so well for his salary. But from an optimal standpoint, when you're considering range of outcomes, and that basically any lineup where you have Mamu Kalishvili, and like, let's say he goes for 28 DraftKings points, which if you're just looking at median projection, 28 DraftKings points is great. But any lineup if he goes for 28 DraftKings points, which is slightly north of where we have him projected, any lineup where you have him is basically dead if two mid-range centers have big games. Yeah. So that's why the optimal percentage is not as high as the ownership.
It's a good point. And he played 28 minutes without Collins last game in regulation before playing 5 minutes in overtime.
Right. Yeah. And it's, you expect probably around 28 minutes from him. But like, again, like I said, he's less than a fantasy point per minute guy. We have him projected for 26.5 DraftKings points right now. He's just the type of guy where it's really difficult to like articulate and talk about on a show, because I don't want to give anybody the idea that he's a bad tournament play because he's 55% owned and like you shouldn't play him. But he is somebody that's going to show up in tournament lineups more often than he should, just because from a median standpoint, he is clearly one of the best plays on the slate. From a range of outcome standpoint, he's a very, very good play, but not as good as if you're just considering median projections.
What about Keita Bates Diop?
3,700 is really cheap for him. You don't have the same level of opportunity cost because he is small forward, power forward. He didn't play in that last game on March 15th, so don't really know what to expect. But typically when he has started this year, you've gotten 26 to 28 minutes. He certainly could play more here at 3,700, 45% ownership, 35% chance of being optimal. Kind of similar to Mamu Kalishvili, where he's going over owned, but the opportunity cost just isn't as high because there's no, like, you have more flexibility with him. You can't point to two players with Bates Diop and say, like, well, if I have him, I can't have these two guys together like you can with Mamu. So probably a little bit easier to get to Bates Diop.
Okay. And then one more thing here. If Devontae Graham ends up being out because Trey Jones is doubtful, do we have to look at Branham and Wesley as top plays? Like both of them?
I think so. Especially Wesley, because he's 3,800. Branham's up to 5,100. But if Graham ends up being out here, you're likely to see a bunch of minutes, not only for Branham, but also for Wesley and even Romeo Langford at 4K. I think you could see Langford move into the starting lineup and play a good amount. So any of Branham, Wesley, Langford end up looking pretty good if Devontae Graham sits.
Right now, and I'm just going in a bunch of different directions with you here because there's just so much going on with this team. Devontae Graham, assuming he's active and Trey Jones is out, how much do we like a 5K Graham against the Pelicans, against his former squad, matter of fact, today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, assuming he's starting and at 5K, like him a lot. Like, he's probably playing 28 minutes or so. Should have plenty of usage. The only high usage guy on this team other than Devontae Graham is Keldon Johnson. So there should be plenty available for Graham if he's good to go.
Honestly, the one player that kind of scares me the most is Keldon Johnson. Not because he isn't like the guy who's going to see the bulk of usage on this team, but whenever you're paying that much for a guy that's not that good, but he, kind of looks good sometimes because he's on such a bad team, but then everybody else is out and they're huge dogs on the road, but you have to pay a mid 7K price point for him. I totally get the ownership. Don't get me wrong. But, Keldon Johnson's one of those guys that even with everybody out, he still needs to have a, 40 plus fantasy point game to get you there.
Yeah. I mean, he's still risky just because of that price tag. There's so many guys, priced around him that can have good games. Like, you don't have a lot of margin for error. 30 games this year with no Devin Vassell, 27.6% usage percentage, 1.06 DraftKings points per minute. He's played 8 games without Vassell or Pirtle, 28.6% usage rate, 1.08 DraftKings points per minute. Like, he's a good option. 29% probably, again, just a little bit high there. And with him, it's one, he's only small forward eligible, so still not the same level of opportunity cost as Mamu, but more than, say, Keita Bates-Diop. But the other thing is that there's just no shortage of guys in this price range, whether it's at his position or not. Yeah. Whereas, when you talk about guys like Keita Bates-Diop or Mamu, like, there's not going to be that many guys around 4K that have the potential to give you, to have the same range of outcomes. There's no shortage of guys around Keldon Johnson that can go get 50 fantasy points.
Right. Yeah. We can talk about a couple of them now, similar price points, give or take a few hundred. On the other side with New Orleans, both getting solid run right now. Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, different positions, of course, but McCollum 8,000. Brandon Ingram is more expensive here, but it's a very good matchup. Certainly the one thing that crosses the mind is the blowout, 11-point favorites at home against a already bad, but more of a skeleton crew Spurs team today. Is this a Pelicans team once again where you go, hey, look, 6-game slate, these guys look pretty good. They're not, they shouldn't be 50% owned guys, but they all look good in a great matchup and have a high ceiling?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's about as good a matchup as you can get. Joval's been playing minutes recently. That scares me
30 plus in back-to-back games.
Yeah, and it scares me because it doesn't last. But
no, he's getting 15 today.
Right. He's 6,600. Even if he plays 25 minutes here, he can go for like 40 fantasy points. If he plays 30 plus, you probably need him. But 16% ownership, we actually have him with a 24% chance of being optimal. So going a bit under-owned, even if that optimal percentage comes down a little. Just keep in mind he's risky. Like, you can just get a Larry Nance game. You can get Jackson Hayes back and they have a 3-center rotation or something. But he should destroy this front court for whatever minutes he's out there. So he looks good. Ingram and McCollum certainly look good. Don't mind getting to some Herb Jones at 5,300. Murphy's up to 6,200, which is starting to get pricey, but he is playing big minutes. Played 38 minutes again last game. Larry Nance only projected for 6% ownership here. He has been popular the last couple of slates and burned everyone who played him. 2 slates ago, that very heavily included me. I think he was my highest owned player, and he barely played. Last slate, he was really popular again, like 20%. Only played 12 minutes. You got 2 from Jackson Hayes. But at low ownership, I don't mind taking some shots on Nance, especially, well, only in non-Joval lineups, because the way that I'm thinking about this front court right now is if you get the bulk of those 48 center minutes going to Joval and Nance, whichever one gets the most of them is a great play. And their ownership is going to be low, relatively low, because you can't be totally comfortable who it is. Like, people are going to some extent, and rightfully so, be hesitant to just jam in Joval. If you guaranteed Joval was playing 32 minutes, Joval would probably be the highest owned center on the slate. But because he has 20 minutes in his range of outcomes, the ownership just can't get that high. Similarly for Nance, if you guaranteed that he plays 24 minutes here, he'd be one of the highest owned values. But because he could play 12 minutes, he's not going to be that popular. So having one of these guys in a lineup makes a lot of sense, because from their, they just both have so much volatility that there's a very good chance when this slate ends, you look back at one of those two and say like, oh shit, he was, a key to having a good slate.
Yeah. The whole Jonas Valanciunas thing is just, it's impossible to get right. But
the only real way that, outside of somehow them both just playing like absolute garbage against the Spurs, the only real way rotation wise that one of Joval or Nance, like if you just knew how many minutes they were going to play, the only real way that one of them wouldn't be a top play on the slate is if this game turns into an absolute blowout. So you get like 20 minutes from Joval, 12, 14 from Nance, and then Jackson Hayes plays the entire fourth quarter. Or they go to like a true rotation where it's just like Joval plays 20 minutes, Hayes plays 10, Nance plays like 18 or something. But based on the rotations we've seen the last couple of games where it's been Joval and Nance, just Joval getting, the bulk of the minutes, outside of those two situations, one of these guys almost has to be a really good play based on the minutes that they ultimately end up playing.
It's just so nuts to see him go for 7 minutes, 16, 21, 16, 34, 33 out of the blue. So we'll see. What's Joval's ownership?
15.
Yeah. So he's still relatively popular here. All right. Boston and Sacramento. Sacramento playing. This is like their 5th game in 7 days or something. They feel like they're on every slate that I've seen. A second set of back-to-backs in the past few days as well. But we'll start with Boston because I don't think this is going to take all that long. Anybody that you want to talk about from the Celtics at length?
So I do want to just comment because somebody in chat said that Nance had commented he's playing through a lot of pain and it's affecting his play and all that. That does, increase the risk factor for Nance. It also does explain Joval probably why Joval is playing more minutes recently. But the thing that is really tough, I think it's one of the more difficult things in DFS to deal with, is injuries like this, because we've seen Larry Nance not play well, not get minutes the last couple of games. So he's not going to get any ownership unless somebody's talking to him before the game. How do we know that 3 days later, because those quotes are from, I believe the 18th. So like Saturday. How do we know that he's still in a bunch of pain and not just going to, like, he's going to just go out there and have a big game at some point, and everybody's gonna be like, oh, Larry Nance is healthy now. And meanwhile, you missed it. So that's kind of the issue. Like, yeah, it adds to the risk factor, but you also just can't assume that it's going to be the same thing for every game going forward.
Really tough to quantify. Yeah.
Right.
Boston.
Yes. I mean, Boston typically is just kind of the same. Get to Tatum, get to Brown. Marcus Smart's 5,300, pulling 13% ownership. So good price tag on him. He has been playing really poorly recently, but you have a great matchup with Sacramento as well. So any of those guys look good. You can take shots on Brogdon and White as well. You are expected to get Robert Williams back. He's 4,800. I assume he's coming off the bench. If he moves into the starting lineup, I'm certainly interested in playing him, but I assume that they're going to be cautious with him, bringing him off the bench, probably not playing enough minutes that I want to get there.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about Sacramento. Sabonis came 1 assist shy of another triple-double yesterday. That would have been 1-2. Yeah, God. It's just, this guy's peripheral stats right now are through the roof. Tough matchup, though. Robert Williams returning, as you mentioned, second of a back-to-back again. He's 3% today. The price is kind of stagnated though, which just is kind of weird to me. Like he's just sitting around that low 10K range, isn't really budging much. But yeah, tough matchup. That's not lost on me. Just throwing it out there because he's getting 3% ownership. De'Aaron Fox leading the way at 12%. And then you've just got guys sprinkled in like Barnes, Keegan Murray, Kevin Huerter, if he ends up playing. What do you make of the Kings today in a tough spot at home?
Yeah, tough spot, back to back. For Sabonis, it's kind of an interesting slate because you don't have Jokic and you don't have Embiid. So that's one thing that's sort of made Sabonis difficult to get to recently is if you're paying up at center, you have one of those guys. The thing that makes him difficult today is that you have such a strong mid-range, whether you're going all the way down to Mamu or you're just living in that, Claxton, Carter, Joval, I think I'm forgetting one or two guys range. It's still kind of tough to pay up at the position, especially when you consider the matchup. But you're getting 37, 38 minutes from Sabonis in competitive games. He's putting up triple doubles pretty much every day, like you said. Still very, very interesting at low ownership. De'Aaron Fox is still cheap, $8,300 today after being $8,200 yesterday. He was one of my highest owned players yesterday. I don't expect to get as much of him today since he's playing Boston and not Utah, but still a very favorable price tag for him. We actually have him going a bit under owned right now, 12% projected ownership, 18% chance of being optimal at just 8,300. So I certainly like getting there where I can. Then we need to wait on news for Kevin Huerter and I assume Trey Lyles. Lyles came back yesterday. Huerter did not. So we once again got Kessler Edwards in the starting lineup. He played 19 minutes. Terrence Davis only played 5 off the bench. Keon Ellis played 4 minutes in the first half. Malik Monk got to 24 minutes. Lyles played 26. If Huerter is out and Lyles is in, I don't really think it matters too much. It does help Keegan Murray's playing time. At 4,600, he would look okay, but nothing crazy there. If Huerter is out, then you do get the situation, or if Huerter and Lyles are both out, if Lyles sits the back-to-back, then you do get the situation where not only is that good for Keegan Murray's minutes, but one of Kessler Edwards or Terrence Davis probably does end up playing quite a bit.
Okay. Ready to wrap this one up?
Yeah.
All right. We got one game to go here. By the way, just went over 100 likes. Appreciate you guys. Haven't even mentioned that since the beginning of the show. So thank you. You're the best. Also, one other thing here. Let me make sure it's in here. Otherwise, I'm not even going to mention it to you guys. Yeah, there it is. Okay. All right. So talked about PrizePicks earlier. I know a lot of you guys, this has been a big thing where they're like, PrizePicks isn't available to me. People say that. They're like, that sucks. Yeah, but that means legal sports betting probably is. Okay. PrizePicks is like an amazing alternative to that. And some people, even in a couple of the legal states where there's crossover, like it as well. You're going to get a lot of these legal books that are giving you insane offers right now. Anyway, like this isn't a read for this, but like if you're in, I think Colorado, Virginia, Ohio, and another one, the bet 365 right now is bet $1, get $365 in bonus bets. Like there's insane stuff going on right now with all these states opening up. But if you can't get in on PrizePicks and you're pissed off, you put your head through the drywall thinking nothing good ever happens to me. I wanted a free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. I was trying to get that sign up deposit bonus. Well, guess what? BetMGM probably is. It's actually the first link that we have in the description. If you sign, the second, third. If you sign up using that link at BetMGM, okay, all you have to do is deposit $10. It takes 60 seconds to sign up, right? You just put your info in, sign up, put $10 in. Not only are you getting first bet insurance up to $1,000, which means with your first bet, if it loses up to $1,000, you get it all back in bonus bets, but you're also getting a free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. So yes, you too, in all of those non-legal PrizePicks states, can get a free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. All the tools I mentioned earlier, $120 value, every sport, everything across the board. Also some betting tools that are going to help you out along the way. This is what it takes. You click the link, you sign up. 60 to 90 seconds to get it done, right? Jordan just threw the link in chat as well. You're getting first bet insurance up to $1,000. Any bet you make up to $1,000. If you lose, comes back to you in bonus bets. If you win and you're in business. So win-win. And you're getting a free month, calendar month, $120 value, every tool for every sport, a Stokastic Plus Platinum. So yes, for all of you non-PrizePicks states people out there, we got you covered. Free month. And we do this because we think you're going to win with the tools. And our hope is that you stick around. If you don't, that's all right. You used your free month. Hopefully you won some money. But you're already getting free tools. You're already getting the free month. And then you're going, wait, now I'm already playing money in DFS every day. I'm already betting every day. Now I can just use this to win more money when I already got the free month. So check it out. BetMGM, link in the description and in chat. Just deposit $10 and you're in business. Make sure to get that first bet in there too for the bet insurance. But yeah, good stuff. Worth taking advantage of. Some great promos we got going on. And if you or somebody you know has a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I think there was something else in there too. Oh yeah, it must be 21 years or older to gamble. That's an important one. All right, let's wrap it up with OKC and the LA Clippers. So OKC, clean bill of health for this OKC team today. SGA just continues to be dominant as a scorer, not so much elsewhere, but is he somebody that at his price point today you're looking to get, assuming like DeJounte Murray plays and Trae Young doesn't pop off for ownership? Is SGA somebody you're looking at as a top play?
Yeah, I mean, he looks good. He's pulling about 10% ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. So doesn't stand out in the sense of like he's mispriced or you should just be jamming in as much as you can get, but clearly a good play. You're getting big minutes from him. He's a really good point per minute guy. Sub 10K, no problems getting to him. There's other guys around him that look similar, but he's pretty clearly a good play.
Is there anybody else though that you like for? I mean, we have slight positive leverage on somebody like Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, but that's like 1% ownership. A lot of these guys that have positive leverage are like 1% ownership guys today.
Yeah, I still like Giddey here at this price tag. He's averaged 1.2 DraftKings points per minute in the 56 games he's played with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this year. He's only $7,600. Obviously it's OKC, so playing time can be sporadic, but Giddey is typically giving you around 32 minutes. Sometimes you get the random 38-minute game. That offsets when you get the random 22-minute game. So Giddey at 7,600, I think looks pretty good. Jalen Williams at 6,800 is fine. That price tag has come down a little bit. He's been very, very good. He does see his production cut into a little bit when Gilgeous-Alexander is playing, as you would expect, but you're getting significant playing time from Williams. 54 games this year where Gilgeous-Alexander and Giddey have been in. He's averaged 0.87 DraftKings points per minute. He's averaged 29.3 minutes per game in waiting for this to load in 6 games. So they've only played 6 games together over the last 30 days, but he's played 33.5 minutes per game with over a fantasy point per minute in those games. So you have seen him sort of just get better as the year has gone on. His playing time has increased as a result. Over the last 2 months, they played 18 games together, just shy of a fantasy point per minute, 32.3 minutes per game. So you've seen that improvement from Jalen Williams, and the playing time's increased along with it. So any of those 3 main guys look fine. Dort is okay. He'd be the 4th guy for me. And then with everybody healthy, yeah, I mean, good luck. Like if you want to try some Jalen Williams with a Y at 3,500, at 1% owned, and hope you get 24, 26 minutes, that's fine. Not something I plan on getting a lot of. Same goes for Saric, Isaiah Joe. Like when they have all of their bodies available or all their relevant bodies available, it's really tough to want to get past the Gilgeous-Alexander, Giddey, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, like force them.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up then with the Clippers side of this one. So we can get into the Leonard and George, but actually I want to start with Zubats here, coming off 3 straight double-doubles, 30, 27, and 34 minutes. And interestingly, the game he played 27 was the one without Kawhi Leonard, but I don't really know what to make of his playing time here. When he gets minutes, he's usually pretty good at a sub 6K price point. Coming off a 34-minute game, he's played 30+ in 2 of his last 3. What do you think of Zubats today at a center position that you've already mentioned has some good options?
I like the lack of ownership. It's a spot where I can't say like it's wrong because then I'd have to start telling you which one of those other really good centers I don't want to play. Right. But I think it's appealing just when you think about it from like a roster construction standpoint. You're going to have some lineups where you're popular across the board and you can just choose to play Zubats there instead of one of the more popular guys. You are getting solid playing time from him. He's averaged about 28 minutes per game since Mason Plumlee joined the team. So we haven't really seen Plumlee negatively impact his playing time all that much. So you do get a nice ceiling from him at pretty low ownership. And this team in general just looks pretty good in tournaments because they're healthy. So you don't have any glaring values, but you still have good players with upside that are projected to go a little bit under-owned. You have a 13% chance of being optimal at 9% ownership for Kawhi. Same thing for Paul George, $200 less. Russell Westbrook at 7,100, probably playing around 26, 28 minutes. 8% ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. So just getting to any of those pieces as differentiation plays is good because they're still good point per minute guys. They're high upside players at low ownership, but there's not one of them that stands out where I expect to just be like jamming this guy into lineups.
Okay. For everybody in LA, for everyone in the Clippers?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Right now we're paying attention to what? The Spurs news, just like, because the Trey Jones and Devontae Graham could be actually pretty huge right now. What else are we paying attention to? DeJounte Murray, right? I guess that's another big one.
Finney Smith's questionable for Brooklyn. That matters for playing time. It doesn't matter for a lot of production. But yeah, Jared Allen, DeJounte Murray, Hampton and Livers on the Pistons. Again, not that they impact rates, but they do impact playing time. The Spurs with Devontae Graham questionable. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, good thing we got live before lock and deeper dive coming up tonight. They're starting off at 5:00. Also, if you got some time, come hang out with Ben and me for the Odd Shop over on our Odd Shop or betting channel. Hopefully you're already subscribed to that. If you're not, it'd be greatly appreciated. 4:00 Eastern. We'll take that up to 5. You want to hang out, make a little marathon of it before the deeper dive, we can do that too. And again, guys, come hang out with us in Chalkboard. Starting to build that community. And you're getting into the ground floor. We're going to be giving out some free subs and everything this week too. So hang out, have some fun. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Lafayette_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein as always for producing this one. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you back here tomorrow for the next one. Peace.